Welcome to Up Close and Personal. This is Malcolm Berman on malcolmpresents.com. And today we have the honor of meeting Stewie Stone. Stewie, tell us about yourself. Who are you?
I'm still trying to figure it out. I'm 82 years old, still working on that.
Well, that's okay. My big question, no matter how old people are, I say, what do you want it to be when you grow up? You're never grown up.
Never, well, actually, you do grow up, and unfortunately, you find out you wasted a lot of time growing up.
Yeah, but you got a lot of time left.
I don't know. The clock is ticking.
Yeah, well, the clock is ticking the minute you wake up. The minute you're born, there's a clock on you. And I always say, philosophically, you constantly read in the paper about people, 15 years old being shot or dying in their sleep. And then you read someone that's 105 years old that just survived, the pandemic. We're all in, I don't know whose hands we are. We're all in somebody's hands.
Well, the one thing is I can say I didn't die on stage.
Well, literally or figuratively. Let's talk about that. I was reading part of your background of, being a Catskill drummer.
No, actually, what happened was at 14, I took drum lessons and I went to the Catskills and I played drums for one season. My wife is screaming, "Don't forget to be funny," and it was fun. You slept in the you don't know the word casino. In those days, they had a casino.
Did they have I worked up in the Catskills, but I worked as a waiter.
Oh, you made money.
I made money.
I didn't make money.
I made money, and I was introduced to a lot of granddaughters.
I was introduced to a lot of grandmothers.
Now, when I served the granddaughter, they said, "Oh, you're a college, I'm Jewish," and she said, "Oh, you're a college boy, chick. You're a college boy." And I say, "Yeah, I'm going to CCNY. Yeah, what do you want to be?" At that time, I want to be an attorney. "Oh, have I got a granddaughter for you? She'll be up in another 2 weeks." Never had problems with dates.
Well, all I know is in the old days, you sent your granddaughter or daughter up to meet a doctor. And it changed so in the Catskills, you sent them up and met a drug dealer.
Yeah, well, that was later on. That wasn't in my days.
Why have I got this square thing on the screen?
You what?
What does it say on the screen?
I have no idea what it says on the screen. I can't see you.
Franny?
Call in the wife.
Call it, in case of trouble, call in the wife.
What's the problem?
What is this?
Comment, Franny. This is Mrs. Stone. What does this say, Franny?
It didn't say anything. It said continue. He like blows on the computer or he touches it or he does something. He's not, he doesn't.
I met this lovely lady at the Concord Hotel.
At the Concord? Oh.
Before she was a lady.
Were you a guest?
I was a guest.
Or you had money? Were you up alone or were you?
I was with my mother. She's the one with the money.
Ah.
And I started out by making the mother hate me.
Yeah.
Well, of course, you worked up in the Catskills.
Well, I wasn't the dream guy for her daughter.
You weren't a guest.
To marry a doctor, And so I married a hypochondriac.
Right. Yeah, it was the opposite. He keeps doctors busy.
Really? Right. The first day, right, you called me when I got home and told me he had a virus. He's had the same virus for 50 years.
Yeah. But anyway, how did you transfer from drums? When did you decide you want to be a comedian? Or did you ever decide you want to be a comedian?
You saw the drummer make money. You saw the comedian make money.
Actually, what happened, there was a slight delay because my wife was reminding me because I have reverse Alzheimer's. I can't forget anything.
Ah.
And I was a drummer and I started making $15 a week in the Catskills. And then
but free room and board.
Yeah, free room and board. You could only eat chicken.
Hmm.
In those days, Sunday checkout was steak, and the owner would come in and take it off the table. And I decided this is not the way I wanted to live. I was going to Brooklyn College, and musicians weren't making money, but I was always funny. That was my defense mechanism, being funny.
Were you funny at the home or in school or?
I was just funny. My father was funny. I was funny. My friends weren't funny, but I was funny. How do I put it? They always wanted me around because it was laughs.
What did you tell jokes or did you just make
Oh,
social
I,
commentary?
no, I just spritzed the guys. What happened? Joey Calvo went out on a date, and I said he knew he was in trouble because the girl could pick up her socks without bending over. So
Mm.
I said, did she ask for a banana? I mean, it was all those dumb things I would spritz and kid around. And then when I played drums, if you did something extra, you got $5 a night more. So I emceed the candle lighting ceremony,
Ah.
a mitzvah. And I did jokes, and that's how it happened.
Oh, so you enjoyed being in front of people?
Always like, I'm a show off. You know, most people will say that comics are something special that God put in. You know, I've had this discussion with Buddy Hackett and Shecky and all that, and we've come to the conclusion it's not something that God put in, it's something God left out.
Ah.
Because it's a sick thing to want to stand in front of a bunch of people that you don't know and want them to love you. And if one of them doesn't like you, it's like the world doesn't like you.
Yeah, well, there's so many psychological
It's a habit.
reasons for being comedians.
You need it. It's like I can't explain it to anybody. You stand on that stage and you get attention and laughs. It's like a drug.
Well, you're alone there.
Well, that's the good thing. You see, singers always have an out. I didn't like the arrangements. The band stunk. But a comic, it's on his shoulders. If you walk off that stage, they didn't like you. Because the average person doesn't know a joke that a comic will say. If they had a good time, 10 minutes later, you ask them, what did they talk about? They don't even know.
Did you basically talk about your life or real situations that happened to you and just sort of like?
I talked about my life.
Yeah, because life can be, it can be funny, it can be outrageous.
Well, hey, listen, I've seen the best. Listen, there are two classes of comics. They call it the class of 45. It was the end of the war. That's when all the guys came back. That's when the Alan King, the Shecky Greens, and the Buddy Hackett's, they entered comedy. I was later, but when I started in comedy, there were 20 comics. Now there's 2,000. We all knew each other. It was a brotherhood.
Did you meet at that restaurant? I forget the name of the deli on 52nd Street.
Second Avenue Deli?
No, 52nd and I think like 8th Ave, 7th Avenue.
Carnegie?
Was it Carnegie's?
Or B&B. We met in a coffee shop, B&B.
Yeah, because Woody Allen has a movie with that, and they all meet up.
Yeah. That was the Stage Deli as well.
Stage Deli, that's what I'm thinking of.
Well, that was all the way up. That was about 55th Street.
Yeah, did you meet there with your friends or?
No, we hung on the corner in front of the Stage Deli.
In front of the Stage Deli. Yeah, you're talking about Buddy Hackett. Buddy Hackett was one of my favorites. I'm old enough to remember him because I forgot someone asked him, does his voice, is he putting on that? He said, if I could speak any other way, I would speak that way. because he had that funny voice, a dialect.
A speech impediment is what
Yeah.
he had. Uh, I think he was one of the funniest guys that ever lived. Nobody could ad lib like Buddy. He went through two things: being a genius and just talking, and then he went into the schmutz, the dirt.
Yeah,
And I said, "Why did you do that?" He said, "Because I make more money talking dirty than
Yeah.
I did being funny."
well, some comedians, it's not talk, I don't know, it's talking dirty using curse words. Or they talk about sexual things, but I know certain comedians, which I do in normal life, I use certain, which used to be called dirty words because it has emphasis.
Well, I'll tell you the truth. On stage, we never used the dirty word for years. It was a no-no. And then Buddy was the first one to start doing that. And they would accepted it from Buddy. They accepted it from certain comics could get away with it. Alan King could never say a dirty word till later.
And Lenny Bruce, they jailed for it.
Well, Lenny Bruce didn't jail for his humor. He wouldn't stop. He had, I mean, I don't know how I could talk on your thing. He said, if you said a dirty word, you took the power away from the dirty word when people heard it all the time. So it no longer became a dirty word.
Yeah, you by the way, you could use any language you want. You can even use the word fuck.
Well, that was one of his lines. He said that people get mad, fuck you. He said, fucking is a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
So I say to somebody, fuck you, I'm saying something beautiful.
Right, that's
if you want to be honest about it, unfuck you.
right. I've heard that lines.
I knew his mother very well. She was a comedian too, Sally Mars.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I've seen the bios on him, the movie on him.
He was a genius.
Yeah, and they just hunted him down like like a fugitive.
Well, because he refused to, he would spit in their eye.
Yeah.
And he only worked certain places where he could do it.
We worked in the Village.
Yeah, but then there were the coffee places around the country, like Bimbo's. I worked in San Francisco and places in LA. You know, there were the new comics working out.
Yeah. So you knew Lenny? You knew
Who?
Lenny Bruce?
I didn't know him personally. I knew his friends, and then his friends helped me, and I met him a couple of times. He was whacked out of his head.
Well, he was on drugs after a while.
Yeah. There's a funny story about him. He was working in the Atlantic City. I forget the name of the club. It was like a jazz club. And he did the show, and they're applauding. He says, I'd like to do more for you, but I really have to go to the bathroom. If you wait here, I'll come back and do more. So he left, and when he came back, they were gone, and he didn't understand it. And they said, what happened? Why did they leave? They said, you went to the bathroom. Yeah, but at your hotel. You left, you went to the hotel, did what you wanted to do. You came back, they didn't wait.
It's too late. Yeah.
That's where his head was at.
Well, the one line that I loved in the movie, when he was in the nightclub and then or in the Village, I forget what club it was, but he was in the Village, and all of a sudden, the police came in to look at him, and he unloosens his tie. So, okay, guys, they can't take me off stage. They only can arrest me after I end my show. So, sit back, because you're going to have a long damn show. Because I don't think they could drag him off stage or something. They had to wait to the end of the show.
It's a funny thing. There were other guys that were funnier than he was. Just changed the culture. He wasn't hilarious.
He told a slice of life.
Well, no, I mean, he talked about, I thought Richard Pryor was a lot funnier.
Oh, Richard Pryor was hilarious.
He talked about real life. His life he talked about.
And Richard Pryor could use language, you know,
Now, there's something interesting. You're a bright man, and I would go and watch Richard Pryor and laugh and never hear the dirty words because it fit into his style and what he
Right.
was, who he was. I'll tell you, there's a guy that was helping me with material when I was living in LA, Rocco Habisi, who worked with Pryor. And we were backstage and he went on stage and he talked about having trouble with his wife and he took his gun out and he shot the car and the whole thing. And when he came off, we said it was the funniest thing. And he was mad at us for laughing. He says, because you guys know that it's the truth and I'm really hurting and my friend should understand me. So it's a little weird.
Yeah. Well, that's, I think, the life of the comedian, because I don't know about you, because honestly, I haven't heard you. I have,
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I live near Pips, by the way, and Sheepshead Bay. And you have mentioned that you entertained at Pips.
All the time.
But,
All the time.
because if you're the comedian like that, you tell the ironies of life. You know, what happened to
I
you.
talked about being single. I talked about dating. I talked about different things. Your comedy is life. As you live, your comedy changes.
Yeah.
Your frame of reference changes. Now, you talk about politically. I had an obligation and I was the first one to break out of the Catskills after the stars and do the Vegases and all the big things. And your obligation was to make the audience laugh, not to educate them, to make them laugh. So you realize years ago that this was a 50-50 country, whether you want to believe it or not. The comic was the first one to realize that. And if you did a Democratic joke, you got half the audience and the other half hated you. And if you did a Republican joke, the same thing, vice versa. So the point is that you had to be careful what you said. I worked Harris for Bill Hara, and they would tape your show every night, the comic. And then the next day you get a note from Bill Hara what jokes to take out of your act. Because if he was a Republican, if you did, I remember the joke I did about Reagan. I said, poor guy keeps getting operated. We're losing this man piece by piece. He got mad. Take it out. I had to take it out.
Well, in truth, you did, but it was his mind that was going.
But the point is that I was his friend and it was his club, Harris, and you didn't do it. Joni Rivers worked there the first time. They took 46 jokes out of her act.
And she took it out?
Yep. You want the job, you take it out.
I know, but the thing is that's, which is actually censorship.
Well, the first one to be censored was the comedian.
Yeah, well, because they say something.
That's the most important thing. I think the only pure art form is stand-up comedy. American art form is stand-up comedy. You don't have them in Nazi Germany. There was never stand-up comics. In Russia, you take away laughter from the people, you're in trouble.
Yeah, I agree with that. Or as I say, comedy is serious business.
Comedy is a business, more than serious. It's a heartbreaking business.
Well, I think I forgot who it was as his comic, and he was doing acting. And they said, "Oh, that was a great," and they said something. "Oh, you really acted well. It's very serious." He says, "Well, acting is easy. Comedy is hard."
Well, that was Shakespeare.
I was shaking. Oh yeah.
It's a line from Shakespeare.
Did you ever meet him?
I did. It was in Kutcher's.
Yeah. Did he play basketball also?
No, center. He was a center on
Yeah,
the team.
no, that was Wilt.
Wilt Distilled.
Yeah,
Remember
Wilt,
that?
because
The bus boy.
again, I remember that. No, actually, Wilt, there's a story, he has a record for holding the most valises, under one arm. The guy was 7'2" or 7'1".
You know, it's funny. People always say the Catskills. When I started working, and who it was, Buddy Hacker, Shecky Green, when you would come work Vegas, the ad would say New York comedian or Catskill comedian. That was like saying Jew in town.
Well, the big joke was when you drive up to the Catskills, for any of their hotels, it was, have your affair at Kutcher's, have your affair under rabbinical supervision.
Well, our aim was to get out of the Catskills. Although we owe a lot to the Catskills, I think all of show business owes a lot to the Catskills.
Well, that was a big spawning ground for singers, especially comedians.
Well, yeah, the comic was king.
They only want you to be funny.
The comic was king.
I mean, people wanted to, again, at least when I was growing up, let's say during the mid 60s or 70s, there was so much, that we had to worry about. As kids, we were hide under the desk in case there was a nuclear war. If the atomic bomb came, we were hiding under our desk.
Well, in the Catskills, comedy was king. Comedy was king. If you were the comic, you were the star. And that's what we all went for.
So what did you do after, well, the Catskills, when did the Catskills die? In the sort of like the mid 70s?
Conversation is so boring.
You want to know something? Let's talk about other things. This is like a little boring. The
Okay, what do you want?
I mean, let's talk about the Vegas and the stars and their idiosyncrasies and the craziness that you live with.
Tell me some stories.
I worked with the worst human being who ever lived was Engelbert Humperdinck.
Really? Your wife keeps on walking in and out of the background.
Yeah, when I'm not funny enough, she comes out.
Oh.
I sued Engelbert Humperdinck.
For what?
And then I worked with Steve and Edie. I'll tell you a funny Steve and Edie joke, who the nicest people. We're working in Atlantic City. And the security guard came in holding a little dog. He said, somebody left their dog here. Edie Gourmet saw that. She says, I love that dog. I want that dog. I'll call it Nugget because it was at the Golden Nugget.
Yeah.
And we were working at the Golden Nugget. Oh, that's terrific. Stevie, it's great. We'll bring it to the doctor. Love the dog. We come back to the Golden Nugget. I worked with Paul Anka, who's got a very good sense of humor, but a little weird. And yeah, he's funny, bright and funny. And I told him that I was working with Steve and Edie and what happened with the dog. Okay. Now we come back to Atlantic City. I'm with Steve and Edie. There's a knock at the door at Steve and Edie's home in Los Angeles, in Las Vegas. They all lived in Vegas. And he gets a phone call, and Steve disguises his voice. He said, "Who is this?" He said, "My name is Timur, and I heard you got my dog." Edie Gourmet hears this. She says, call the lawyer. I mean, I'm not giving this dog up. I love the dog." So Steve, being a gentleman, says, "Well, I got a dog, but how do I know it's your dog?" "Well, name it Fido." And he goes, Fido. And the dog doesn't answer. It's been with Steve and Edie too long. He knows his name is Nugget. He said, he's not answering. He said, well, what's your dog like? He said, "Well, it has a leg in every corner." He said, "Well, this dog has 4 legs." He says, "Well, he likes when you think to him. Could you think to him?" So Steve, like, it gets on his knees and starts going, "Go away, little girl,
Go away, little dog, yeah.
little girl." Nothing. He says, the dog is not reacting. He says, well, try another song. Okay, if I were the best man, the dog's not reacting. It's not your dog. He says, well, maybe he just doesn't like your voice.
Mhm.
Steve caught on and says, Paul, don't ever call this house again. Edie Gourmet had a heart attack. She was going crazy. And we joked about that for the longest time.
Yeah, they were a good couple.
Lovely, lovely couple. Then I worked with
Yeah, well,
well,
you worked with a lot of people.
I worked with everybody.
Yeah, well, what if you I found most comedians, if they're not like, the star of the show, they sort of lead off for top singers.
Well, with the first half of the concert, and it's the most difficult thing because they're not coming to see you. They're coming to see the star.
Right.
You're like Chippy, Zippy the chimp.
So who have you opened up for?
Name them.
Well, okay, which one? Anything to do with Sinatra?
No, Paul Anka, Sonny and Cher, Steve.
Sonny and Cher. How was Sonny and Cher to work with?
They were great. They were great. The only thing was, they just were lovely, lovely people. And I worked with Cher.
After she left him, after they divorced?
No, I worked with them both times.
Mhm.
I worked with them. They were divorced, but they worked together. We went to Hawaii. And we did a whole tour of the country. We went to Hawaii. My wife went with me to the country, to Hawaii.
Yeah.
And it was New Year's Eve. And they were getting $275,000 a week in those days, right? And the owner of it was a Hilton Hotel, said, and you'll bring in the New Year's to get everybody on stage. And Cher says, I'm not going to go back out on stage. And there's a confrontation. So my wife came up with the idea. She says, let Stewie go on for 5 minutes and he'll start to sing and we'll all come out and sing Auld Lang Syne and that'll be the way we'll do it. And great. And I said to Cher, look, I have no voice. I'm not afraid of anything. I don't want to stand out there and sing. Would you do that to me? She said, well, are you kidding me? Would I do that to you? So now I tell the jokes. I said, now we're going to bring in the New Year. 10, 9, 8, 7, and I look in the wings, and there's Cher giving me the finger. I think, fuck you, and my wife's laughing. They never get. It was the most embarrassing time of my life.
Yeah. But did you sing?
I did Auld Lang Syne, terrible. I think everybody wants to forget that year.
Yeah. It's not a way to bring in the new year.
No, not at all. Then I went to Africa with the village people.
Ah.
That was an experience.
Well, did they do a big, the village people, if I remember, were a gay group.
How did you know?
Everybody knew.
Oh, no. They were all,
and maybe in the formal life.
No, the lead singer wasn't. The cop wasn't. But they were nice people.
Oh yeah, well, but I'm wondering what the audience was, if they attracted a.
You want to know something? We worked in South Africa, a 5,000-seat arena, and I was a little nervous. I said, "Oh, I'm a little nervous," and the owner came to me and said, "Don't be nervous." I said, well, "What do I say to these people?" He said, "Do the same jokes you did in Miami. They're all Jews out there."
Yeah, well, actually, there are some tribes that they found in Africa that were originally Jewish, part of the 7 Lost Tribes.
I know how they found it. They all had mink coats.
That's true.
Mink coats and diamond rings. It was the lost tribe.
Yeah, they said, well, they weren't. No, but the Falashas from Ethiopia, that they were during the famine in Ethiopia, 20 years ago,
How
they were
many
airlifted.
comics do you talk to? You talk about the famine in Ethiopia.
A
Why
lot.
do I bring this out of you?
You bring the best out of me. No, well, I find now, for me, personal taste, I like comedians that talk about what's happening, that talk about life, because life is so strange.
Well, I tell you what, I'm one of the few guys that roasted Donald Trump. Look me up on YouTube right before he was the president. And I was with the Friars Club and did about 25 roasts. That was exciting.
Yeah, that's what I want to maybe in supplemental shows talk about the Friars Club, because they had a
We
great
have to do this
reputation.
again.
You don't have to.
I
But
like it. Nice.
actually, what I would like to do, and you can consider it, we can tell our audience and see what they have to say, is it seems when I talk to you off camera, you know everybody, at least everybody that's still living, and maybe even some of them that passed away. But to have them and interview with me, have them come on the show, we'll do a three-way conversations.
I'd love
Talk
to.
about,
I'd love to.
yeah, because comedy is fun, but comedy is serious, as you know.
Well, it's fun. It's fun. I tell you, I had a great life. I
Well,
laughed a lot. I worked every place there is to work.
Well,
And now most of my friends are dead.
now you're going to do internet things. This is going to be a new venue for you. It's a new venue for me.
You knew my friend Kenny Roberts.
Ken Roberts, I knew, yeah.
I like Kenny.
I got Ken got him in, well, after he was with K-Rock, I got him the news Mars FM. And as I said, we created a new major station in Los Angeles called Mars FM from two local, LA station and Orange County station.
A lot of legal fees.
A lot of legal fees, but he also made a bloody fortune from that.
He was a very interesting guy. He would only eat food that started with a P. Potatoes.
Penis? No, I didn't know he was gay.
Pasta. What?
I said I didn't know he was gay. Foods with a P. Never mind. My mind is weird.
And where are you living now?
Me, I live in Los Angeles.
We lived in Westwood for a while.
Yeah, Sherman Oaks, California.
Sherman Oaks.
Yeah, I remember when I've been here 40 years. When I first moved out here, my mother said, and I was living in Hollywood, she says, are there any Jews living out there? Can you get a kosher meal? Like I'm kosher. I said, yeah, every other block was a delicatessen, a Jewish deli.
That's funny.
And if you don't live in New York and you're Jewish, you live in, Los Angeles. It's the same town.
It's funny, you tour, you find Jews. I worked in Tripoli, Willis Air Force Base, and I had to lie about my religion to get in.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't want to, but I had a contract, and my real name is Ian Stewart Sonnenberg. So they said, that sounds German, we can get you in. So I went there, it's all Arab, and I was scared and everything. And closing night, I was on stage and I said, I'm flying home tomorrow. And I have been lying about my religion. God will strike me with lightning, the plane won't make it. So I walk out on stage, I said, listen, before I say anything, I have to tell you the truth. You've been entertained for a week by a Jew, and I'm proud of it. And I'm sorry I had to lie to you and whatever. And as soon as I got off stage, more Jews came running up to me, living in Tripoli in those days.
Yeah.
They would believe.
Well, it was funny. I used to go to a restaurant over here called the Palm Restaurant.
The
I mean, they
Palms.
have one in New York, but this was in West Hollywood. And for years I go there, and there's this waiter, Tony. Tony was this typical Italian guy. He came from Rome. He was like about, He looked like a bull. He was like about 5'5", solid. It looked like he played. If he was bigger, he would be linebacker for the LA Rams. Anyway, I saw him years later. We remember the same health club. And this he was topless. He was wearing a towel and he was topless, and he had a big Jewish star hanging from his neck. And I knew it from him. I said, Tony, what are you wearing a Jewish star for? He looks at me. He said, Schmuck, I'm Jewish. He said, Rome had the oldest temple synagogue in Europe, and it's a large population. Anyway, do you realize we've been on for about 35, 40 minutes already, and our show is only a half hour?
Show 5 minutes.
I'm gonna cut it off. I think I'll cut off. No, the good thing is we're the internet, and I could, go as long as I want. But the thing is, I also want you to, speak to Fran and yourself, and see if you want to do, let's say, a regular podcast once a week for 30 minutes about comedy or about whatever the hell you want to speak about.
Franny? Fran?
Have her come in.
You have an author. Come in. You have an author. Come in.
You're done?
Not yet.
Oh, what do I have to do?
No, we're done.
If you want to do a podcast, you and me.
Oh, yeah, I'd love to call it Franny and Stewie.
Franny and Stewie.
Yeah, like
Versus
J.D. Allen for Franny and Zoe,
Franny
remember?
and Zoe, yeah. Yeah, you would do it with comedians about your life, whatever you wanted.
Oh, I'd love to do it. You want to help us?
But it'd be a regular half hour,
Yeah.
once a week. We'll set a time, and you'll be on forever. Because you see, I mean, to live with Stewie, you have to be funny.
Well, yeah.
Because otherwise you'd kill him.
He's got to be funny. Right. To live with a comedian, you better be funny. Yes. Right.
Yeah, life on the serious side of a comedian.
Was he serious the whole time, or was he funny?
No, he was funny. He was telling stories. What I want is stories. I don't want someone to come and tell jokes.
Oh, you don't. Okay.
No, I want, what I like is the history that he has. He's worked with, he's telling Sonny and Cher and, Stephen Eady. These are people that I know. That's part of my youth.
Actually, part of my youth too.
Yeah.
Part of my youth too. Look, I can't even see myself. I need my glasses
Can
to
you
see
see yourself?
But at least I put my eyebrows.
Wave hello to your friends.
Sally something or other.
Sally called you?
Can you believe this? He's giving me a phone. He's giving me a message while he's on.
All right, we're still on the air, Stewie.
I know.
This is real.
I saw Frankie Valli do that with Jerry Blavat.
Yeah,
Jerry Blavat's talking to him live on Facebook, and the phone rang. He says, "Hey, Jerry, I got to get this," and he left. And Jerry's sitting there for like a minute.
Well, you got to get used to it, because I talk about personal things on my podcast. Take a look. It's malcolmpresents.com. I don't know if you.
I did. I watched.
Okay. How do you like the shows?
I do.
Yeah? Okay.
I do. I think you should talk more.
Well, we're going to get a show with you. It'd be a half hour. I'll call, off the air. We'll call the time. Again, the residuals, there ain't none.
I know. Right. But I'll put makeup on. I'll put makeup on.
You don't have to put makeup on, because it's real.
Oh,
but you can't keep on walking in and out of the room.
Oh, you have to just, I get it. Right.
I saw you walking out. Yeah.
You can't answer the telephone.
You could do it like a George Allen and George Burns and Gracie Allen. It's like what he always tells the story. Until she joined his team, he was a vaudeville, but he wasn't that successful. Of course Stewie was, but he said when she got on the stage, he would say, "Okay, tell me about your Uncle Harry."
I know, it's very funny.
And a half hour later, he would say, "Good night, Gracie," because she could speak the whole time, do a monologue. Which I could do.
He was funny too. I loved him.
Yeah, well, he had the timing of a straight man. Which I do, which I could feed you guys lines. But anyway, we'll talk off camera, but we're think about it. Think about what you guys want to talk about. Think of the name of the show, or it could be, Franny and Stewie.
Yeah, I like it.
No,
that's a good
title. Like Franny and Stewie. It sounds like Franny and Zoe, right? Yeah. Remember?
But need a commitment from you that you can do at least 13 weeks. Possibly 26 weeks, Because once you start, you don't end.
Right, I get it. A commitment.
A commitment.
Send me the contract.
You will, you won't have to, I don't charge that much. You don't have to pay me that much.
All right.
But
Are you
all
done?
this, you could become famous in the cyber world.
Listen, I'd love to be famous anywhere. in
Yeah,
any
Any
world.
world.
Yes, Stewie,
World.
you've done television, you've done
In
stage,
Gambino's
you've done
world.
screen.
Look, it's pouring here. Do you
You
know
could
it's
become a cyber world actor.
cyber world, right?
Anyway, guys, take
Okay.
a look at it. Tell your friends. The way we get people is
To tell your, put it on.
we talk about it. Tell our friends. Tell them this. MalcolmPresents.com. This one is under up close and personal.
Okay.
Okay, guys.
Malcolm, have a great day. Oh, it's
You-
still, it's a day for you. It's already the night for us.
Yeah. Well, it's to me. It's about 12:30.
Yeah, and it's 3:30 and pouring. Okay.
Okay,
Bye.
they say in French, sei gesund.
Sei gesund.
You will.